Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to your Investment Dominator live Q&A call on this beautiful Thursday, May 2nd, 2019. This year is really moving by. It's good to be with you on this call. I'm Warren Davis, and we want to do a real quick sound check again, as usual, just to make sure that I'm being heard and that you see my Investment Dominator screen here. And that should be the only screen that you see. So just real quick, if we could, if you can send your questions, or if you want to just reply back to me, let me know that you can hear me okay. According to my indicators, my voice is coming across, but I just want to make sure that everybody can see and that you can learn, or you know how to type in your questions. Y'all can raise your hand. I see the questions. Okay, very good. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Questions are already starting to roll in, so you can put in your questions in the question box, and they will end up showing up on my screen. And the last class that we had, which was on Monday, we did make a request. When you are, just give me a little help on your questions. This really helps me a lot. If you can specify first the category of your question, you know, if it's around offers, it could be around Pat Live, could be around the APNs, you know, whatever the category might be, kind of gives me an insight into what you're going to be asking or what we're going to be discussing. And some of you picked this up very well on Thursday. All of you may not have seen this, so because quite a few new people we have on the call today, and that we'll be having in the weeks coming. So that would give me a great help. If you could do that, I would appreciate it very much. It will help me to answer your questions as quickly as possible on the call. So sure pray everybody's having a good week. It has been a very good week on my end. We had a very exciting 3-day event with Jack Bosch Live, and I always get inspired when I go to those particular events. And so we keep going because we learn new information, and it also inspires us, and we get to meet so many great people. I've met so many of you that are on the call. I was able to meet you face to face, and I really appreciated being able to do that. We're going to get right into answering your calls because we're here to support you in your respective businesses, and we want you to be successful. So we're going to do our best to answer all of your questions. And as I always state, if I can't get your questions answered here on the call, because we do have some that have already come in, and we want to make sure we don't leave anyone's questions out, and that we're able to answer as many as we can on the call, but I'll research them if I don't know the answer or if I can't get to them on the call, and make sure that they are on the next broadcast that we have. These are twice a week, on Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and on Thursdays at 12 noon Pacific time that we're here. And just if you're new on the call, there's quite a few on the call, but if you are new, you know that we do record these calls, and we will have them available for you probably a couple of days after our call. This one that's happening today should be available by Saturday at the latest. Hopefully we'll have it posted for you, so you can go back and listen to any of the questions that we covered. And as I say, questions have already started to come in, so we are going to get through the ones that we had on Monday that we weren't able to get to, and then we will address the current questions for today. And the first ones that we're going to answer here came in from Lisa. I want to make sure that I'm not missing any important announcements I need to make to you before we get going with the questions. We really appreciate you sending in those questions and asking your questions, because it helps everyone on the call. And from the live 3-day event, we did have several questions that came up. Those I'm addressing as well. And we definitely are looking forward to meeting more of you. Thank you, Rebecca. It was very nice meeting you as well. We had a really great time on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It goes by so fast because we're having such a good time and enjoying meeting everybody. So let's get right into the questions that we had on Friday, one we could not answer right on the call on, on Monday. First question came from Lisa. Lisa had a very good question about Sunnyland.com. How do I get Jack's property to fill the empty space on my selling site? And this is something that Jack has mentioned that he will do, that our group will do for any of the folks that are, don't have any land to sell right now, because basically you're getting out your neutral letters, and then you'll be getting back your offer request, and then you'll be sending them back their offer request, the customer, and then as they say, I accept your offer, you'll be able to market that property. So if you don't have anything to market right now, Jack has made available properties that are currently on the Sunnyland.com site, and he so graciously has said that, and he can help fill your site so that until you get properties up, you'll have something to list. Now, this just wants you to make sure that now you should be seeing my Investment Dominator screen. I'm actually in the Investment Dominator app right now. You'll see my land deals, and they're displaying. So this question is available for coaching students and for 2-day workshop students. So if you fall into one of those two categories, what Jack has stated he will do, he will basically display some of the properties that's on his site onto your site, so that as people come to your site, they will see that you have, there's land there to be offered. It's not offered to all Investment Dominator users automatically. So it's available upon request from a coaching student. So if you've entered into the mentor program, or you're a 2-day workshop student, which means you'll be having a Investment Dominator workshop. Those are the two categories of students that can receive, upon request, up to 10 properties will be put onto your selling site. So one of the first things that you need to do is to generate a ticket. And if you're a coaching student or a 2-day workshop student, these up to 10 particular that they choose, the team will put up to 10 different properties on your site. And the only caveat, or the only important piece of information you need to remember, is that all of the, like Jack's contact information, must remain in place on the listings, because you cannot represent properties that you really don't own, or that you're really not trying to sell, that are not, you don't have under contract. You can't even work as an agent. This is simply so that they post on your site. So the coach student need to keep all of Jack's information intact, but you'll get to display those properties. And it's a really, really, really nice gesture, I think, on Jack's part to put that out there for us. So hopefully that will address that question. And we, just so you know, part of that question, I just say, you have to go in and generate a ticket. So I want to make sure everyone, we have some new people on the call. I went to help up here in left hand, and I'm going to say, I'm going to create a support ticket. That box is going to come down, and then you can just put in there that you're a coaching student and that you're requesting, to have the 10 properties put on the selling site, your selling site, and you might want to list your particular domain, and I'm sure they'll be able to look you up. And once you create the ticket, it will go to support, and you should be getting a response. Okay, so hope that answers that question. We had a question on Friday from Brian, and I think Brian is Arkansas way, but he was asking, how do you figure, and this is kind of a loaded question, how do you figure the offer price? How do you figure out the offer price on a property? Now, there's a lot to this question. So obviously I can't go into every aspect of the analysis process to answer it, but I basically can give you kind of a high level and share with you what I do, kind of what my process is, and then we'll show you in the system how you actually generate that offer price. And we're gonna kind of excited about being able to share with you some new features that Investment Dominator has just around the analysis process to make it much easier for you. This CRM is extremely intuitive. Alex and company has done a great job in putting this CRM together and continues to do a great job as you all write in and want new features added. Alex and team goes back and they knock it out if it's something that they're going to implement. And so they do a great job week to week, making sure that your requests are being made known. So how do you figure out the offer price on a property? First thing is obviously the property must be in pending preliminary research status. That's going to be one of the main points. So we're looking at properties that we are going to market now because the owner has said, we're looking at properties that we're going to do an offer on so that we can send them back to the owner of the property and hopefully get those words that I love to hear: I accept your offer. So just let's say we want to go in and we want to do some research on this particular piece of property. It's always good to have, obviously the acreage on the property. And what we're trying to get to here is the particular offer request or the offer amount that we're going to make. So this is where we're trying to get to here. This is the question that Brian is asking. How do we get to this offer price based on the information that we have? And I want you to know that one of the first things I do is I want to know what the county thinks of this particular process or this particular parcel. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to look up in the county, whichever county you're working with. I'm going to look up a county assessed value. How valuable is this property in the county's eyes? Now, along with this particular analysis does go understanding that, if you've done several checks of properties for a given county, you'll be able to determine the county price versus what the market value of the price is. In the particular counties that I work with, we have determined that a lot of times the county assessed value may be a couple of $1,000s less than a lot of times the market value. That's just after going in. So I'm gonna already boost that up by $2,000. But in order even to get to that point, one of the first things you want to do is find out what the county assessed value is. Now, once I know what the county assessed value is, now I want to go look in the market to see, are there any comparables? Are there any lands that has sold for that particular, that's in the same category of my size of property? So that's where we get our market value or our comps. And in order to do that, this is one of the features that, new features that has been added. You see right here, I can go into realtor.com and I can just click on that and I can bring up all kinds of properties right there. You don't even have to go anywhere else. You can find all of the properties that have sold. And this one says sold and the price is not available. So we don't know exactly how much they sold for, but basically this is what allows you to do your comparables of what has sold. So let's just say, for the sake of time, that I've gone through and I've looked at Realtor. I may look at Zillow to determine, what the Zillow showing. And by the way, in order for any of this to come up, any of these market online comparables, it is imperative that you have a property zip code entered in. So it's always good to have a location, which is the latitude and longitude, the city that the property is in, obviously the state, but this zip code is most important. If you don't have a zip code, none of these online comparables would show. So once I find out from either looking at Trulia, what exactly the market price is, and I'll determine that from land that has sold. Now, again, if I don't have any, let's say I don't have any direct comparables with a, 4.5 acre parcel. If I can't find any comparables, then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at houses that have sold in that particular area, hopefully within no more than like a mile or two of my land parcel. And I'm going to determine the value based on, like, I'll take 20 to 25% of the house value that sold. So if a house sold for, 100,000, I'm going to take, I would say $20,000 of that would be land, maybe 25,000 would be land, and I'm going to make that my market value. So I'll take a percentage of the houses that sold. I'm also going to look at, when I do my analysis, if the property is what we call landlocked, which means that it's completely surrounded by land. There's no street access, and basically the property there is, and there's no easement in place, which an easement is an access easement so that you could actually build a road. So if there's no roads right around, I might consider that property landlocked. And all of that will go into my consideration for how valuable I think this property is. And basically, I'm going to check to see if this particular owner, this person may have two properties that are right next to each other, and he wants to get an offer on both of them. I'm going to consider that in my analysis of what I consider to be the offer or the market value of that property. So if he has more than one property that he wants me to look at giving him an offer on, I may bump this number, I may bump up the market value. But the bottom line is, when I get ready to come down here and do my offer, I'm going to show you a special feature later, but I'm going to go up here. The first way we learn to do it, go up here to options. Because I have the both amounts, I have the market value and I have the county assessed value, I can now come up here, calculate my option offer. And of course, if there are any back taxes, that would be shown here. Now, I've never explained this. Good question, Bennett. We'll be able to look at that, finding the latitude and longitude of a property. And we'll look at that as soon as I get to get through this particular explanation here. But if there were any back taxes, I might enter them here. If they were, 250. And not 2350. Let's say there's just some back taxes of $250. So that would have already been entered in my land record, and that would show up here. Now, just on the organization of this screen alone, if there are no back taxes, like there was zero, you see these amounts are the same. I can use either amount, right? But if there's back taxes owed, I'm just going to make it easy. Let's say $500 in back taxes. I wouldn't use these amounts up here. You notice these change, these amounts down here. This is the net offer. I'm going to use these amounts since there are back taxes owed. And I'm going to say this is my minimum, $1,600, that's 12%, and my maximum is $2,475, that's 17%. And then normally there would not be an offer price in here. So I'm going to determine that I'm going to give this person, if my min is $1,600 and my max is 24, I'm going to probably come somewhere right in the middle. So I might come right around 2,050.97. Okay? Because there's back taxes owed, The max is 2475. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to save this here and, save that. And you see it saves it each at a time. And that's how I determine what I'm going to actually offer. So this is going to now, this price, $2,050.97 is going to go into my offer amount. And as I get out of here, I'm going to always update the record, make sure those values are retained. So you see I had my minimum, I had my market value, I had my county assessed, and here now is where my offer is, where I have the offer for $2,050. And so the way when I go back out to my land records and I look up that particular record, now you can see that there's a market value. So this is one way you can tell if you have records that still have no analysis done, because there'll be nothing in the market value. These are, as you can see, are 0. This one's 0. So that's basically how I find, or I determine, what is going to be the offer price on a property. And again, it's very important for you to understand that I'm going to go, as I calculated, make sure there's no back taxes. I'm going to take somewhere in between the minimum and the maximum. And that has worked very, very well for us. So what I would do, we had a question on how do we find longitude and latitude? That's a very good question, because we want to always make sure, if at all possible, that we have this field populated. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. Alex has actually built in a way you can go right to the actual property. There's a map feature that's within Investment Dominator. I tell you, this is very intuitive CRM. I'll either use that occasionally. I will go to Google Maps. So I'm answering the question, how do I find my longitude and latitude? I'll come into a Google Maps, thing just like you see here. And now a lot of times, we don't have the longitude and latitude. All we have is a particular, we sometimes have a property address, but a lot of times what I'll have to do is look at a county map, and I just might as well go in and pull one of those up for you so you can see exactly how we find that. Just give me a quick moment here. I will look for my county pictures and land here. And let's pull up, let's pull up one of these here. So as you can see, my property is sitting here, right? And by the way, this is when I was talking about landlocked. This might be an example of a landlocked. You see, my parcel is here, kind of in the middle of this space, but there are no direct roads that come to this particular property. So I would check with the county to see if there's an easement in place, which is the county has recorded that, saying, okay, we feel the best access to this property from, is it Rosser Main Road, Rosser Pittman Road, the best access, the county will determine, and they'll actually put an easement in. And by the way, if a property is landlocked, they say we can offer like 50% of what we think we could actually get for it in the marketplace. But once you put an easement in, if you were to take this property, buy it, and put an easement in, that really raises the value of this property, because now there's access to this property. But in any case, if I want to find this particular property's longitude and latitude, I'm gonna look at, okay, we have Lee County Line Road here. You've got Rosser Pittman Road here. So what I'm going, and this came straight from the county. So what I'll do in a lot of cases like that, I will take my Google Maps and I might put in Lee County Line Road. And a lot of times you'll get a couple of different ones. Now I happen to know this one's in Broadway, and it will bring up a map like this, okay? And remember, I'm looking for Lee County Line Road, and I'm looking for it near US 421 or Rosser Pittman. My property is between these two particular roads. So Lee County, there's Rosser Pittman over here. Hope everybody is, it's kind of small writing. I'm hoping everybody can see my screen. And I'm looking for a shaped property, you know, kind of like this, elongated. I have to look for the exact property. And once I find that, kind of on the outlines, I hope you all can see the outlines, but the property is right here. Let me see if I can give you some help here with a little pen. Okay, so here's my property right here. Hope everybody can see that. And so my property's here. What I'll do is I'll put my cursor within this property. I'm going to right click on my cursor, and you see where it says what's here. That shows up, and all I want is the longitude and latitude. So here's the longitude and latitude for that property, and I usually get it out of Google Maps. If I have a really long parcel, I'll go on and I'll do another quick what's here, and I will end up with a different longitude and latitude. So it's basically finding the property in Google Maps. You right click on your cursor, what's here, and you go to what's here, and that will display your longitude and latitude. And then I usually just take that, I copy it. I'll do a Control-C to copy. So I highlight it, do a Control-C, and then I will come and I will stick it into my particular longitude and latitude. I'm gonna get rid of those lines here. There we go. And I'll put it right in this longitude latitude area. Okay. So that's how we find that. And I know it's kind of a longer explanation, but it's worth knowing, because this longitude and latitude, a lot of times what our customers ask us for, when you get a person on the phone that says, hey, I'm interested in this property, you know, how do I get to it? A lot of our properties do not have addresses. So what we do then, of course, I go back into Google Maps and I'll do a driving directions. I'll give them directions, and I'll put in, oh, they say they're coming from one city, and I'll put in that longitude and latitude right here in the second part of that, so that it can come up with my driving directions for, you know, right to that property. So that's very important. It's always very important to have that longitude and latitude. And sometimes you'll get fortunate and you'll actually have a property that has an address, so you can put that in. But most of the time they do not. So if I say Lillington, North Carolina, just, you know, this is all made up, but from Lillington, North Carolina, right to that particular property, it gives me a Google map, and then I can come over and do my options and get my actual driving directions. So keep that in mind. That's just something else I'm answering for you. How do you obtain your driving directions to properties, you know, out of the Google Maps? Okay. Um, yes, Bennett, good question. Ben is asking if you have the driving directions or if you have the address, do you still need the longitude and latitude? No, not really. You do not. If you have the address, I will just caution you on one thing. Sometimes we think we have the address to that property, and a lot of times either it was recorded incorrectly or the correct address is just not known, but sometimes there is an address to the property. And this doesn't happen always, but I find that I need to check that address. I need to verify that when I go to Google Maps and I put in that address, it comes to the very same location that the county shows me in the county map. So once I put in an address, if this property had an address, I verify that address. I don't always depend on the address out of the county records being correct. We've been burnt on that a couple of times, and it's most embarrassing to send a customer to a piece of land you think you're sending them to that they want to buy, and you find out that the address that you had was wrong. That customer is extremely upset because they spent their time going out to look at a property that is not correct. So always, always, always verify those addresses that you get even out of the county records. That's from personal experience. I've been embarrassed like that before, and needless to say, we didn't get that sale. Okay, so always check that. We have an excellent question, another excellent question coming in from Kathleen, who asked. And this was a question that came up on our Monday call as well, that we sent out our first batch of letters. I guess she sent them out actually on Monday, and noticed that the Investment Dominator rounded the APN numbers when the list was imported, and it rounded actually to the 7th digit. And I have to say that I have to apologize to Kathleen for missing the first part of her question on Monday. I missed the first part of the question, and I didn't address the question because I didn't fully understand it, but it was just because all I saw was it rounded to the 7th digit, and I didn't quite understand what that meant. But the first part of her question had to do with the fact that they sent out a letter, or batch of letters on Monday. Those are neutral letters, and the Investment Dominator rounded those numbers and basically change the APN numbers. So how do you deal with that? And that's what we're going to look at here. So if you sent out, had some prospects that you wanted to import into Investment Dominator, and what I'm going to show you is a list of, let's see, list of APNs that I might want to import here. Let me bring up some. And okay, this looks like a good record, good number. It's coming up, and remember, importing your list, you have to be in a .csv file, which is a file that can be handled with Excel. So as you can see, I have a list of numbers. I want you to understand, first of all, now I'm not an Excel guru. I use Excel, extensively, but I'm not a guru at it. What I want you to understand about this Excel is that it is basically a numbers-driven program. So it's really, it's a financial program. And so because it's a financially based program, a financial based program, it a lot of times converts numbers, and this is by design. So especially with your APNs, Excel sometimes might change those. Now I think, I don't know if Alex has put something in place, but I couldn't actually get the APNs to come in incorrectly. All of the APNs that I imported, I tried different formats. They all came in correctly. They were imported. But I will tell you about the zip code over here. Now, you can't see it, but in this field here, there is a 0 before this 4574. And Excel strips off any leading zeros unless you do something. So just for your own sanity, if you have any trouble importing into Excel, what I want to do is I want to call your attention to a particular article that's already been written. You can search your user guide, and you just want to look for how to format APN or zip codes, and search your user guide. Okay, and this article will come up, how to properly format APNs and zip codes in Excel. This article, take your time and read it, but basically it talks about how to format so that your APN correctly displays, and I'm going to go through the process for you, but I just want you to know that this article exists. It also talks about removing leading zeros from your zip code so that all of your numbers come out as expected. So just real quickly, what we would do in Excel is I would go up to my APNs. If I'm dealing with my APNs, I'm going to right click over that column. So using my mouse, I'm going to right click, and you see this alternate menu comes up. I'm going to go down to Format Cells. And as I select Format Cells, I want to select, I don't want it to be general, I want it to be a number. I want it to always be a number. Because what's happened here, Excel sometimes has already put a predefined kind of like algorithm, if you will, changing these numbers, and the numbers are it's actually called a scientific notation that Excel puts when it comes to certain numbers, and this scientific notation will change your APNs, especially if they have zeros at the end. So what you can do to make sure that doesn't happen, you right click, select Format Cells, and just do it over the entire column of APN. So you only have to do it one time. And you select number, and then you want to make sure 0 decimal places. That will ensure that it doesn't come out with .00 as if it were a dollar amount. So once I'm here, I put in decimal place zeros. I come down, I hit OK. Now this has already taken, this will ensure that all of my APNs will come in just as you see them here. None of them will import differently. I'm going to try to show you this particular one. So you can see I have my zip codes here. This is only showing up as 4574, but I put a 0 in the front of it, and Excel doesn't display that 0, but I clearly entered 0. So when it comes to my zip codes, I want them also to come in exactly with any leading zeros, whatever the zip code is. So I'm going to do a similar function. I'm going to select that. I'm going to right click, come down to Format Cells. Now on this one, you don't see any, I don't want it just to be a number, but I'm going to select Special here. And when you select Special, then zip code comes up, or zip code +4. You can select whichever one is applicable. Normally it's zip code. And when I hit OK, boom. Now you see my 0 displays in front of those other numbers. And so now when I import this list, and don't forget to save, okay? Don't forget to save. Once you import, before you import, you want to make sure you save. So I'm going to go up here now and I'm going to save this. And now it's ready to be imported because my APNs are taken care of and my zip code is taken care of. So just in case you have any issues with numbers coming into Excel being imported into the Investment Dominator, want to make sure before you import that you do these two features here. And again, I'm calling your attention to how to format. Just read through this. It'll take you just a few minutes, or you can watch the video, which will be very, will explain what I just shared with you. Okay, so that's how we handle numbers and make sure our numbers, our APNs, and our zip codes are formatted properly. Okay, let's move on here. This time I tell you goes by so fast. In any case, we had another question. I just want to touch on this one too, because we don't really have time to explain the entire scope. We're going to talk about just a little bit about your opt-in pages. If you want to opt in, create an opt-in page, and that is basically a page that will capture for your buyers, it will capture their name and their email address so that you can have them go to your buyers list. So the question is, where do I find the opt-in page in Investment Dominator? Okay, opt-in pages. Where are they? They're usually under the My Sites. And you should see in here, you should see an opt-in page right in between here, but you don't see it on this particular screen. And the reason being, there's one of two reasons why you won't have an opt-in page. It could be because you're not using the Investment Pro version of the Investment Dominator. If you're not under Investment Dominator Pro account or an unlimited account, it won't automatically display your opt-in page. The other reason why you may not see your opt-in page is because it has been disabled on your particular account. Some people go in because they don't want to see it all the time and they disable it. So if I want to look under how to enable my opt-in page, just want you to know this. I want to go under Websites, Selling, and this is where I'm going to manage my selling site, because the opt-in page is a part of your selling site. When you're looking for people to come in and you're trying to sell them some property, they're potential buyers. So you want to capture their contact information. You see here this where it says opt-in page. And right now, you see at the time, this was disabled. I changed it earlier, but it was showing disabled. So now I want it to go to the default opt-in page. So that's all I need to change is that one field. And I'm going to update my site. Okay. As I update my site, now when I come to sites, you see now I see the opt-in page is available for me to access. And right now it's set up to go to Sunnyland, but it will, if you have a selling site that you actually have set up, your opt-in page will go there. I'll tell you just so that we can see that fully. I'm going to change this back to what it was before. I like that for a name, alotofdirt.com. Yes. All right. So we're confirming that's what we want to do. Okay, make sure you always update your site whenever you make any changes. And so my opt-in page shows up right here. This is the part. I want to make sure your first name, your email address. So when a buyer comes to your site, before they'll see any other listings that you have for sale, all the listings you have for sale, they have to first, you gain access by entering your first name and your email address. So now, and then you say view, they will say view all the available deals here. So this is how you capture buyers on your selling site using your opt-in page. Very, very, very powerful to get your list of buyers built up. Another great intuitive function that we have on the Investment Dominator. Okay, wow. We have so many new features that I wanted to get a chance to. Okay, so we had a question from Rebecca as well on, which I'll probably capture this. Okay, we'll come back to that. We have had a question, I think, on the import list. Owner's first name and owner's last name would be the same field. First name, see last name. Oh, the question is, do the columns need to be filled in, I guess, for the import list? And that's from Tim, and the answer to that is yes, Tim. He said it seems like, it says the first name and add owner's last name appear to be the same fields as columns B, first name, and C, last name. Okay, on the sample import list, I don't know if it's a sample import list that I showed. Sample first name. I don't see them be the same. Sample import list. Well, let me look at the sample import list in our Investment Dominator. Okay, we import. Here's a sample list. So maybe I get a feel for what you're actually asking here. If I'm understanding the question correctly. On the sample import list, columns A, C, owner's first name, and AD. Well, perhaps you were speaking of the list that I had up here. If I can't, I'll take some time with this if I can't get it right now. First name AC. Okay, that was, you're looking at the last list then. Okay. All right. I said A and C, last name. Owner's first name. Okay, both columns need to be filled in. Well, I'll just say that you definitely, in order for Investment Dominator to process this, and see. In order for the Investment Dominator to process this particular like individual or company, I think we stated on the other day that you need a first name. If it's an individual, you definitely need a first name. You want to have a last name. Those are the fields that you definitely need. Obviously, these city, state, and zip, and APN. The rest of these fields are optional. But if we look at example of with the data, you see we have a first name, last name. Since it's not a company, there doesn't have to be a company name, but you do need an address, city, state, zip, APN, the property state, and the property county. and that's really what's required. You don't even need the property zip, but I think right up to here, property county, property state, APN, zip, these fields must be filled in order when this is imported into Investment Dominator for it to be processed. And definitely you have to have in field A, whether it's an individual and whether it's a company. So I'm hoping that's gonna answer that question. Fields from Tim. So if you have any, hopefully I'm answering it right. I'm trying to make sure I understand your question, but if not, I'll look at it again later on, and we will get this straightened out for you. Just going to write down my notes here. Okay, so it sometimes is difficult with this medium but I'll look at all of your notes, Tim, and I will definitely get this, make sure I'm getting it clear so I'm answering the question as you are asking it. So I make sure I get you a clear understanding. And if I can't get it done here by the end of the call here, we will get it done for you definitely by our next call, which is on Monday. So you're very welcome, sir. I just want to make sure that I can get through the rest of these if possible here. I don't want to rush anything. But we have a new feature, and we had a question that came in: how to preview your customized documents. And this is actually a new feature that has been added to Investment Dominator within the last few weeks. But in order to see this fully, we'll go to Land Deals and generate documents. Let's do the bulk. All right. And this is about customizing. So I'm going to go to custom documents here. All right. So this has been a shortcut that's been put in, because before, if you wanted to preview a custom document, now this is one I've already created. It's called New Offer Test 4. So before, what I would have to do, if I wanted to see this document, I would have to go back to Land Deals. I would have to generate the document. And then when the document was generated, I could go look at New Test 04 to see if the changes I made are actually good changes. But Alex and company have made a kind of a shortcut. So see right here, associated with my New Test 04, I can do a document preview right there. And here you have the document. And so since it's right here at your fingertips, if I want to go and I want to add any additional fields, I can say, oh, that's not exactly what I want after the Dear Ella. I can go in now and I can edit this document. And as I edit the document, you see here in my source of the document, I can see the entire document. So now I can make any edit changes here. Okay, and of course, because we have this HTML WYSIWYG, they call them, I guess, you can bold things, you can add text, you can add images. Really cool the way this is. But look here, I can do a document preview from here as well. And as I preview my document, see right here, this is what I added. This is a new line. So Investment Dominator has been made, so easy for you to quickly make changes to any of your custom documents. And again, I can do it here within the edit, or if I cancel, I can do a document review, right here before I even go into the edit to see if this is the custom document that I wanted to have. Before, I would have had to go all the way back to land deals, and I would have had to generate the documents here. Then, as I generate the documents, I can go in and look at the documents, any of the documents I want to look at. And then if I want to make changes, I've got to go back now to my customized documents, and I've got to go back into edit and make my changes. But see, now that we have the document preview right there, it's so much quicker. And that's the whole, that was the whole point for that. This has made life a lot easier for us. So another great question we had come in that's going to speed up the time for you getting your neutral letter out to the mailing house, like letterprinting.net. Your neutral letter, remember, is the letter that goes out to your customers saying that you want to purchase their land. So now you want to get those to your mailing house, which most people, a lot of people and the customers are using LetterNet printing to send out all of their neutral letters. So previously, we would have to have two separate, this is a real cool feature here, we would have had to have two separate templates go to letterprinting.net if you were dealing with individuals or if you're dealing with companies. But now there has been an update made. Before, if I wanted these letters to go out and I wanted to deal with the company, some I were dealing with individuals, I would have had to come in and let's see, under generate documents, you can see here that I would have had to generate a document for the individual prospect. But what if I had company that I wanted to include in this whole import or export to letterprinting.net? What if I had companies I wanted to deal with at the same time? Like in my example I showed you, I have individuals here, but I also have companies, right? And if I want to see my companies go out along with my individuals, I basically would have to send two different templates, one for individual and one for company. But not any longer, because what you do is you come over and you hover over this question mark. I'll tell you, we've got a few minutes left. And you can see here where it comes down, it says you can generate a prospect neutral letter template. You can generate it, and you can generate the template envelope as well. And what this is doing for us, people, is it is handling either company or it handles individuals at the same time. So if I want to just look at the prospect neutral letter, okay, here we go. See, it has a place in here. This is all of letterprinting.net, all of the fields they use, and it has the exact fields that they're actually going to need if you have a company or if you have a private party. So you basically only have to use this one template, and it handles both company or it handles private party. And now we've incorporated this OR greeting here, which is like Dear Mr. Jones. That's also involved. So now when you come and you lay out this .csv file, this is what would go to letterprinting.net. Right here in one spot, you can send, see, here's the greeting field I was telling about, this OR greeting, Dear George. For companies, instead of it saying Dear George, it's going to say to whom it may concern. So then you have Dear Kevin, to whom it may concern, because these are company records, right? So you can have now company records in your data going to letterprinting.net. You don't have to have two separate Excel spreadsheets or two separate submissions. It can handle companies or it can handle individuals at the same time. A lot of you that may be new to the business, you can't appreciate how much time that saves you. But basically, all you'll have to do is send this template to letterprinting.net, this letter template, excuse me, and this envelope template, along with downloading your .csv. These 3 files will go to letterprinting.net. All you do is just, based on uploading them into the letterprinting.net, and it's right here under the bulk generate land documents. Remember, just keep in mind, I'm using the bulk generate land doc, not the individuals down here. I'm using this bulk generate, and send these 3 templates, these 2 templates, and your CSV file here, which has your data, and you're there. This is I'm telling you, it saves you a lot of time having to go back and get your templates together before you go to letterprinting.net. So we really appreciate that. And with that, I think that's all we have time for. I really appreciate you all being on the call today. I just want to leave you with one quick thought. Thank you for being on the call. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing which you think you cannot do. And that was from Eleanor Roosevelt. You gain the strength and the courage and confidence by every experience which you really stop and look fear in the face. Don't be afraid to look it in the face. Do the thing which you think you cannot do, and you'll be successful. I want you all to have a great remainder of the week and a great weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you here on Monday at 5 p.m. Thank you much, everybody. Have a great weekend.